It's 11 a.m. That task is pretty squarely done. All right, so that means it's time for our wrap-up chat. Now, the way the wrap-up chat works is I'm going to give a brief summary of what all I got done with a little bit of the how, a little bit of the why, and then I'm going to pop into the chats and see your accountability log that you've been keeping going in the chat. If you haven't been keeping it going, go ahead and let me know in the chat now what it is you got done during the time from 9:30, because we got started late again, sorry about that, to 11. And whether you were writing along or just watching along, you can also feel free to put into the chat any comments or questions you have regarding your creative projects, my creative projects, and the creative projects process in general. But for now, first, the brief summary. All right, so first up, I went into the Golden Goose Eggs Facebook group and rotated the journaling prompts, put one out on the topic of, I scheduled one for 4 weeks from now, on the topic of fairy tale living. That'll go out on Sunday, the 2nd of September. September, interesting. That early-ish date will come into play very soon, again, in my brief summary. Then I also, because I was already on Facebook, I went to the other Facebook group I manage, The Saga of Sven and Other Poems, is what's written in the link, and it will be renamed to that at a point in the future. For now, to help people who might be interested in it find it, the group is called Low-Key Obsessed with Matthew Gray Gubler, because I have OCD, and if I'm interested in anything, that means like a base level of low-key obsession. Like my minimal interest in anything is going to look like a low-key obsession. So, that's a fun fact for you. Every now and then you get things like, I have a passing interest, but it's more, I'd rather have people in my life who are interested in that and who can tell me things about it than actually go and do the research myself. It goes from passing interest to low-key obsession. Just the tipping point is immediate there. So I posted in there about Hannah Gadsby's recent comedy special, Nanette, which is amazing because it starts, as a friend of mine put it, it starts like a postmodern comedy set, and then all of a sudden, you know what I mean if you've seen it, was how my friend put it. Postmodern comedy set that turns into, you know what I mean. You know what I mean if you've seen it. And it's really important and great and brave and necessary. And it has me thinking a lot about my performance poetry, about self-deprecating humor, and I'm willing to laugh at myself for a lot of things, but I have a very clear line of where I stop laughing at myself. And if somebody else makes a comment, it's like, no, you see, that's too far. The line was over here, and you went over there. Come back over here. And being clear about where my lines are and respecting other people's lines. And also in my poetry, making sure that when I share it, that folks understand where I am in my own healing process with regards to those poems that healing was involved. And usually with writing a poem like that, the much more intense poems, I'm usually very much at the tail end of what that intense feeling is. Like it's about to leave my system and be done. And so all those years of dealing with this thing has now crystallized into this moment. I had a friend who wanted me to write poems about more of the journey of like a healing thing. It's like, no, the healing is what made that poem happen. Like I would have to go back into the process to be writing poems. They wouldn't be performance poems. It'd be a whole other thing that I'd be writing about the healing process rather than to have more performance poems. Performance poems come like right at the tail end, the last of that energy, which from my own experiences as an actor and doing performance art, my ability to dip into those moments and then come out and have left it on the stage it's a skill that can be learned. It's very difficult to learn. It's part of the reason I don't have any of those poems memorized, because I want it to just be on the stage. I don't want it to come back with me. And when I'm working on a play, like the very last performance is when a line or two gets dropped, because I'm pushing the last of it out of my system, and I'll usually be putting so much into some scenes that lines get dropped in other scenes as I'm just forcing the last of the energy regarding that character out onto the stage so that they don't come home with me because I'm ready to move on to the next project. And so my performance poems are a little bit like that, where I feel the last of that energy in my system and I use it to write the poem. And then it's when I'm reading it that I'm dipping back into it, but I'm putting as much energy as possible so I can leave it on the stage, because that's where it lives now. It doesn't live with Rosie anymore. It's in my memories. I remember the storyline. I remember what happened. If I put the words in front of me, I can jump right back in again, like any good actor, but it belongs to the stage now. It doesn't belong to Rosie in quite the same way anymore. And that's what I'm working on with my performance poems, and finding a way to properly communicate to that to people who are interested in my performance poetry writing process in the Facebook group, Low Key Obsessed with Matthew Gray Gubler. I want that to be very clear, so that the people who are reading it know that I am practicing a great deal of self-care in the way that I write the poems, and that I am encouraging them to take self-care actions, including, you know, if a poem is too intense for them, leave it alone. Leave it alone. The only poems that are required, because I have them set up in the educate, like, units. Facebook groups now have this thing where you can set up like course units, basically. And so you can have it as an optional unit or a mandatory unit. And only the Saga of Sven is mandatory, because the group is Low Key Obsessed with Matthew Gray Gubler. Matthew Gray Gubler is Sven, and when the group gets renamed to the Saga of Sven and other poems, Saga of Sven is going to be this core thing. But yeah, all the other poems are optional, so that if they become too intense, you can walk away. The Saga of Sven is meant to be completely comedic, ridiculous. How did I become a fan? How did this happen? And also, why am I still a fan? Why is this still happening? Shenanigans. So that was, yeah, anyhow. So I jumped into the group to let them know that Nanette's really got me thinking. And I really want to make sure that I have some very straightforward guidelines for myself and moving forward, and guidelines that I can share with them in terms of making the most of the group, and also taking care of themselves while partaking in the group. Because some of the poems outside of the Saga of Sven do get very, very intense, and they can be actually brutal. I don't do them that often because they can be so brutal. There's one that every time I do it, I want to cry after. Like when I'm on the stage, I want to cry during it because it hurts, and then when I'm off the stage, I want to cry because I'm relieved that I get to leave it on the stage now. Like, I'm so happy that it just lives there on the stage and it doesn't live in my system the way that it used to. So yeah, popped into that group and did that. Then I went on to Buffer, and I caught up on queuing things in Buffer to make sure that there's always something going out on Twitter, the Facebook page, and my LinkedIn profile that's guiding people back to my central site and letting them know about the variety of projects and things that I create. So I buffered Weird Tales, my next Weird Tales, and this is a September date that I was hinting at earlier. September 1st is when the next online issue of EAP, the magazine, Exterminating Angel Press, their magazine, is coming out with their fall issue, Things That Go Bump. And I wrote a story called Michelane's Beauty, which they have accepted, and because partly because I'm a contributing writer, and partly because it's amazing just on its own. Like, if I wasn't already a contributing writer, I'm sure this would, like, help put the nail in the coffin or whatever. Just saying. Just saying. But it's really good, in my opinion, and it's inspired by a story that my father told me about my great grandmother, Michalene Bulak, who immigrated here from Poland. He once told me she was so beautiful that she once had to jump from a train. Which is a weird statement to make, and then we made him explain it. My sister and I, who were sitting there at lunch with him, and he explained it, and it wasn't actually a story about her being beautiful. It was a story about this dick being super entitled. Her beauty was the fact that she jumped off the train. Like, it was just... like, her beauty was her strength, and just like, whatever. Like, I've been reasonable dealing with his bullshit, and now, like, the only options available to me are ridiculous options, so I'm gonna take the ridiculous option of jumping off the train and hoping he does not follow me, because then I'd really be screwed. But she took the risk. She took that risk. It was great. Anyway, so I made that into a short story that's going to be published in September. Then I queued up a post about Wonder Tales, currently working on my little 4-part retelling of Rapunzel, which is going to incorporate a lot of things that I've learned through my studies as an amateur herbalist. Real excited for that. Then I buffered the Seconds project, which is where I'm writing a line of verse for every second in a 12-hour period with 5 syllables to every line. The end lines of each poem designated by the various crossings of the hands of a clock over a 12-hour period. And every poem is inspired by a different fairy tale. So it's a project I haven't worked on too much lately. I'm hoping to get more. I feel like it's my perennial National Poetry Month project now. Then I queued up the Saga of Sven page from the Better Storytelling site. Then I queued up the Penrose Trekkie because the sonnets are coming, but also September is on its way, which means that the final season of the original series is going to be posting to the penrosetrekkie.com soon. So I did a little, the red shirts are coming post. And then I queued up the Golden Goose Eggs because everyone deserves their happily ever out there. And then while I was doing all that queuing and buffering, I realized that the Weird Tales project page on the Better Storytelling site needed updating, since a new story is going to be coming out that's going to be part of that project. So I went ahead and started the bullet list. Nephilim at the top. Next bullet down is Michalene's Beauty with the note in parentheses to be published coming soon via EAP, the magazine, with a link to the magazine website. Then I popped into the kitchen, did a round of dishes because I need to get this place clean. I need to get this place clean before I leave town because I don't want to come home to a messy apartment. I want to come home and just relax. I do. Then I tidied up the drafting table behind me. Tidied up like how the dishes and everything that still need to be cleaned are arranged on the table. That way I can just power through them more easily because I do like to clean by categories. It was, which I learned through KonMari. The KonMari method, pieces of it work for me. The full implementation of it, her way, is not a great idea for me. But there are pieces of it that work really, really well with the fact that I have OCD and have been helpful in helping me square away my hoarding compulsion. Oh no, I left my pantry open and everything's exposed to the sunlight. Give me a second. So yeah, tidied the drafting table. Put some food away, which is why the pantry was left open. I have a pantry set up in my closet with a curtain to block out the light because that's how you're supposed to keep food. You keep it in a pantry or you keep it in an icebox. It's not actually meant to be kept in your cupboards, which is spelled cupboard for a reason. cabinets, you like have designated cabinets for designated things. There are record cabinets, curio cabinets, wonder cabinets, china cabinets, all kinds of cabinets. Like, cabinets are built for a specific purpose. Even linen cabinets, right? Linen cabinets, which were then called linen closets when they were just built into the wall, and wardrobes, and because of the crossover between keeping linens in designated cabinets and designated wardrobes, that then as linen started to be kept in designated closets, then the use of closets expanded to clothes. But closet just means was just a small enclosed space, which now we predominantly use for clothing. But yeah. Anyway, your food's supposed to be kept in pantries. I might write a treatise about this to get people to stop storing things in their kitchen cupboards, where they are slowly overcooking and depleting the nutrients from their foods. Just saying. And when you do that, then when you make food from those things, even when you put them in leftovers in the fridge after that, they don't last as long because the food wasn't as fresh, wasn't as well preserved to begin with. So it's already deteriorated before it's entered the fridge, which cuts down how long it lasts in your fridge. If you can keep food away from the heat and steam sources, including major appliances, like, don't put things on top of the fridge because the fridge on its outside is still generating heat as an appliance. Keep your food, if it's not going into the fridge or freezer, keep that food in a pantry. And you want the pantry to have doors around it. A lot of, like, IKEA has like all that open pantry shelving, which is great, but you need a curtain around it to protect things from the light, because light is a source of heat. And that does also affect the quality of your food over time. Just throwing that out there, folks. Throwing that out there. When they talk about keeping your food in a cool, dry place, and you're like, what does that mean in terms of my kitchen? What it actually means is a pantry. It's cool, it's nearish room temperature, and it's in the dark, so it doesn't have the additional heat of light on it. Anywho, after tidying my drafting table and leaving my pantry open, because I'm a goose, I drafted my next blog post for the Bremerton Muse, the blog for the Better Storytelling site. And that post is going to be about the one little thing I'm working on fixing with regards to my upcoming graduate school applications, because I have decided that I need to start angling my life towards graduate school, because it is the next real step toward my next grand adventure, which is to have a family. Not immediately. I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that financially, and also I haven't met anybody. Like, I'll finish graduate, met someone at some point during graduate school. Who knows? Whatever. Planning things. It's time in the wrap-up chat for me to see what all you all got done. Popping into the chat on YouTube. Nothing in there at the moment. I am going to hit refresh because that doesn't hurt anything on YouTube, but I want to make sure that the video did not get split into multiple pieces, because that is a possibility. It did. It did get split. Son of a bitch. Okay. So looking now for the current one. So I can hit pause and go into... Yeah, but that means I've lost all the chat from the previous splits of the video. I am so sorry about that. I think I know exactly what happened that did that. Lesson learned, Rose. All right, moving on to Twitch. Lots of items in Twitch. Fantastic. All right. So, Click 18 says, sorry, I can't speak English. I just see you. Thank you for knowing enough English or enough about Google Translate to put that into the chat. Jesus, that green is very difficult to read. Meku's Gaming? I'm guessing that's what that means. I turned on a lot of streams, muted most of them, saw a streamer talking a lot, unmuted, tried to figure out what they were talking about. I'm completely lost about what's going on. I don't know what... Are you talking about my stream? This is the wrap-up chat. I'm letting you know what I got done today. Then amazing, so excited. Yeah, I joined during the dishes. I got dishes done. I'm very happy about that. I feel like I just got scolded. Cupboard for a reason. Yes. A lot of times my humor does sound like scolding. I wonder if sometimes if it has to do with family upbringing and our humor style, plus the fact that I did spend 15 plus years working as a nanny. Could be either of these things. Could be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Fine, Mom. I'll take my linens out of the cupboard and put them in the linens closet. I'll also take the food out of the linen closet and put it in the pantry. Take the cups from the pantry and put them in the cupboards. I think I remember that all right. Phew, I wasn't ready for that language. Wait, did I swear somewhere and not realize that I sweared? Shit. I can't remember. I'm a sailor. I swear. It happens. Anywho, that's all that's in the chat, which means it's time to wrap up the chat for today and wrap up today's live stream. Thank you very much for joining today's live stream. This was day 100 of the second round of 100 days of morning writing. As you can see, I was making up for several days in the number under the video, 95 to 100. I'm going to be, with the new job, getting everything squared away so that when I do 100 days of morning writing next time, it'll take more than 100 days, but there will be one video, like there will be 100 videos, 100 days of morning writing, even if it's spread out over a little longer, like 20 weeks, say, which would actually be 140 days because you have to account for weekends. Because I only have the weekday mornings. But that won't be till much later in August, after the 20th? Or starting the 20th? Maybe I'll go grocery shopping in the morning. Will I have food if I do that? I can get things from CVS. I have to make some decisions about grocery shopping when I get back from my family vacation. But... so the earliest I'll be back streaming is Monday the 20th. That might get pushed. But I'm aiming for Monday the 20th for round 3 of 100 days of morning writing. We'll see. We shall see. Thank you very much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you in, what, 2 weeks? 12 days. 12 days. I look forward to seeing you in 12 days. I have to go finish cleaning and getting ready to spend a week with my family. So, yes, thank you for joining me today. I'm Roaster Music, your live stream writing accountability partner. Hoping to be here weekday mornings from 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for 2 hours of live stream writing accountability for 2 streams of live stream writing accountability, followed by our half-hour max to share what you did wrap up chat. And I encourage you to come back. I really, really do. And let me know what it is you're working on, and also any comments or questions you have about your projects, my projects, and the creative process in general. Because the more we can talk about what it is we're working on and how it is we're working on it, the more we can iterate on those things and tell better stories, whether it's the stories we tell ourselves, the stories we tell each other, or the stories we're telling together as a collective, as a community, as a family, as a society, and little by little build a better world through better storytelling. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I look very much forward to seeing you soon. Good journey, my friends.